Sati, a tale of inhuman tradition. Throughout human civilization, there have been chapters so dark they make us shiver just thinking about them. A society where the birth of a woman meant she belonged to someone else, and the death of her husband meant her own life was no longer hers to keep. This horrifying chapter was known as Sati. A woman whose husband had died was forced, through social pressure, religious superstition, and patriarchal manipulation, to be burned alive on her husband's funeral pyre. They called it purity. They called it faith. But was it truly religion? Or was it a cold-blooded murder wrapped in the language of faith? Origins and distortion. The exact origin of the Sati practice is lost in time. But as early as the 4th century BCE, when Alexander the Great came to India, he recorded seeing such a custom. The word Sati comes from the name of the goddess Sati, daughter of King Daksha and wife of Lord Shiva. When her father insulted Shiva, Sati couldn't bear the humiliation and set herself on fire. From that myth, a terrible misconception took root, that a virtuous wife should follow her husband in death to prove her purity. Yet, nowhere in Hindu scriptures does such an order exist. Many sacred texts actually honor widows, granting them dignity and the right to live again. Still, some religious leaders and patriarchal powers twisted mythology into a weapon against women, and thus began a cruel social ritual where, in the name of religion, women were burned alive. Imagine for a moment a young widow, her eyes swollen with tears, her face hidden in shame, drums beating, conch shells blowing, the crowd chanting. She is dressed like a bride, with vermilion, garlands, and sandalwood on her skin. Then, she's led to the blazing pyre of her husband. Sometimes she's drugged with opium, sometimes struck unconscious. If she tries to escape, she's pushed back into the fire. Her screams are drowned by the sound of drums, and thus, for centuries, society burned its women, in the name of faith, in the name of purity. The beginning of resistance. The first attempt to stop this inhuman practice came from the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan. He banned sati for widows with young children. But in distant villages, the fire still burned. The British rulers, too, remained silent at first, fearing that interfering might spark a religious rebellion. Then, in 1799, a courageous Christian missionary named William Carey began campaigning against sati. He appealed to Governor-General Lord Wellesley, but nothing changed. And then came a visionary from Bengal, Raja Ram Mohan Roy. In 1812, he began a social revolution. He spoke out boldly. This is not religion, this is murder disguised as devotion. In 1821, he wrote a pamphlet titled A Dialogue Between an Advocate and an Opponent of the Practice of Burning Widows Alive. With reason and compassion, he proved that sati was against both Hindu scripture and humanity itself. Abolition and victory. In 1828, Lord William Bentinck became governor of Bengal. Ram Mohan Roy appealed to him. This cruelty must end, make it law. Bentinck listened. And despite the risks, on December 4, 1829, he passed a historic regulation, banning sati and declaring it a criminal offense. It was a monumental victory, but the battle wasn't over. Conservative Hindu leaders formed the Dharma Sabha to oppose the law. They claimed it was an attack on their religion and appealed to London's Privy Council, Ram Mohan Roy, with the support of Emperor Akbar II, traveled to England to defend the truth. He proved that the Vedas, the Upanishads, and the Puranas never sanctioned sati. It was not divine, it was superstition. In 1832, the Privy Council upheld the ban, rejecting all appeals. Justice and humanity had prevailed. In recognition of his courage and wisdom, Emperor Akbar II bestowed upon him the title Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Though it took decades for the flames of sati to die out completely, from those ashes rose a new dawn of human dignity and reform. Today, when we speak of women's rights, education, and equality, we must remember that this path was carved through fire, tears, and sacrifice. The Sati system is now history, but its memory reminds us no religion, no tradition, no law can ever stand above humanity. The truest religion of humankind is humanity itself.